All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I hope everyone got settled down. Thank you. Please take your seat. All right, we would like to begin on time. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pavis Devahasuddin, Communications Officer from the IMF's Communications Department. I would like to welcome everyone here in this room and our online audience to the press conference of the International Intergovernmental Group of 24 on International Monetary Affairs and Development, or G-24. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that we have simultaneous translation in English, French, and Spanish. Speakers detailed in the media advices sent before have been updated. It is my honor to introduce the distinguished panel at this table. The chair of the ministers of the G-24 at the center is Mr. Pablo Girno, Argentina's Secretary of Finance at the Ministry of Economy. To his right is First Vice Chair, Mr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. To the left of Mr. Chair is Second Vice Chair, Mr. Muhammad Ali Malik, Executive Director at State Bank of Pakistan. And of course, at the other end of the table is the Director of the G-24 Secretariat, Ms. Ayabo Masha. Without further ado, may I invite Mr. Girno to give some remarks. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you as we gather for this press conference. You have at your disposal our comprehensive communiqué and press release encapsulating the discussions held today. Allow me to briefly highlight the key takeaways. Following a succession of adverse shocks in recent years, global growth remains below pre-pandemic levels, and rising policy uncertainties are generating substantial medium-term headwinds. Emerging market and developing economies are experiencing the deteriorating terms of trade, reduced export volumes, and declining foreign currency earnings. While many EMDs have ramped up domestic policy to mitigate the impact of elevated uncertainty, the constrained policy space and current uncertainty underscore the urgent need for collective and coordinated solutions supported by multilateral institutions. The IMF's role as the centerpiece of the global financial safety net is vital in addressing these multilateral challenges and supporting vulnerable countries. Maintaining a robust and well-resourced IMF is necessary for crisis prevention, effective response, and sustaining international monetary and financial stability. Efforts to develop approaches for further quota realignment should reflect members' relative economic weights without disadvantaging other EMDs and LICs. The World Bank focus on jobs and private sector development is welcome. The bank has also made progress in implementing the Evolution Program. The ongoing shareholding review is an opportunity to resolve existing disparities and enhance representation and voice of EMD's countries. On the sovereign debt framework, we noted that high debt burdens and rising debt service costs continue to undermine long-term development prospects. While supporting efforts to further improve the implementation of the common framework, we call for broader reforms of the sovereign debt architecture to focus on fiscal sustainability and improving country risk assessments by credit rating agencies. We emphasize the need for institutional mechanisms for crisis prevention and response to support countries with sustainable debt positions that face short-term liquidity shocks. On development, we call for accelerated global action. We also supported equitable energy transition, supported by innovative financial instruments and multilateral collaboration. On domestic resource mobilization and tax cooperation, we reiterated the effective domestic resource mobilization and multilateral cooperation on tax reforms are essential for mobilizing resources to finance development and address global challenges. Lastly, we encourage renewed international cooperation and urge closer collaboration among Bretton Woods institutions and national governments to restore confidence in the global systems. With these remarks, I'm now ready to entertain your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we begin the question and answer session, I kindly ask that all questions remain within the scope of the G-24's mandate and responsibilities. Country-specific or other questions outside this purview should, of course, be raised during the regional press conferences taking place in the coming days. Also, please identify yourself, your outlet, and specify to whom your question will address. So, any first questions? The lady in the pink jacket. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My first question goes to the chair. And in countries where physical buffers have eroded, how can governments responsibly rebuild space without jeopardizing essential social services? And does the global debt architecture needs to be redesigned to reflect the more, fragmented reality? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think you touch upon into a very important topic of discussion. As Managing Director Georgieva always says, everything starts at the domestic level. The domestic imbalances that are created through imprudent fiscal policies are at the core of domestic imbalances. And I think one of the most important aspects that countries should take into account is specifically make their own domestic homework in their domestic finances, such that they are able to rebuild buffers to confront external shocks that every now and then happen. So in that respect, the cooperation and the collaboration that the multilateral development banks and institutions perform are very, very important in that respect, in creating the framework for analysis and execution of those policies, such that they are able to be successful in producing such buffers in the domestic. Because at the end of the day, the fundamental macroeconomic scenario of each country is what will bring growth and employment and investment into respective countries as well.
Next question, please. At the front, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and other members here. Mr. Chair, this question is for you. Good morning. In light of the communique's acknowledgement that emerging and developing economies are facing deteriorating terms of trade, rising debt burdens, and also the limited policy space, how can multilateral institutions like the World Bank and the IMF move, in terms of ensuring that reforms, such as perhaps quota management, debt restructuring, and also resource mobilization truly reflect the voices and vulnerabilities of these economies, rather than perpetuating, the systemic inequalities that we've seen? Then also for Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, it would be nice to know perhaps our own opinion of at least in this meeting, October 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think as countries, we are part of a global framework under which the multilateral institutions play a key role in conjunction with the different countries and different governments in pursuing solid policies that at the same time address social inequalities. I mean, that is, at the end of the day, the most important aspect of what we do in the different governments in different countries. We need to constantly balance the need for growth and the need for addressing social inequalities that arise from the different fiscal imbalances and macroeconomic disorders that sometimes our countries have faced. With the resolution of entering into a clear path of having domestic fiscal balance and being able to put your domestic finances in order, what you have is you basically are subtracting or reducing the weight of government in the decisions that the private market makes. And as such, that is what leads to investment, and that is what leads to growth and to the improvement of the different people within our countries. All that in coordination with the assistance that the multilateral development banks give in terms of allowing for resource mobilization and infrastructure financing in education programs, such that our labor force becomes more skilled as well in the future. So the role is very, very important. It is interconnected, and it's part of the multilateralism that we all adhere to.
Mr. Cardoso, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Been very useful to answer the question. It's been very useful, and it's clear to me that under the leadership of the Argentina, being the chair of the G-24, we've certainly advanced the cause with the voice of the emerging economies and been able to get a greater, a more effective seat at the table, especially with respect to the Bretton Woods institutions and getting our voices heard. And I think that in itself is a major step forward. So, of course, our expectation is that the very, very good work that has been done will be further deepened in the years ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Malik or Marsh, you have anything to add to? Yep.
No,
okay.
thank you.
Next question, please. Gentleman at front, and we're going to move to the lady in the front as well. Yeah.
Sir.
My name is Babajide Komalafe, Vanguard Newspaper, Nigeria. You said in the opening remarks, we call for broader reforms of the sovereign debt architecture to focus on fiscal sustainability and improving country risk assessments by credit rating agencies. So I want you, can you please elaborate what kind of reforms, maybe some specifics with respect to the current sovereign debt architecture? And then to the CBN governor, what kind of improvements, would you like to see in the way these rating agencies, assess countries like Nigeria and other emerging countries? Thank you.
Before you answer, I have an online question from Mr. Sofiq Farsan, New First Sri Lanka, which is related to your question. His question is, what measure is the G-24 proposing towards member states securing debt sustainability and positive growth trajectory? So it's related to debt restructuring. If Mr. Chair and then Ayaba would like to come in later. Thank you.
Let me first address the first question. I think when you're talking about debt burdens that the world as a whole is having, and it impacts emerging market economies more significantly, because the first thing that happens in emerging markets is that access to credit is significantly reduced or eliminated. The answer to that, the answer to being able to regain debt sustainability goes hand in hand with credibility, goes hand in hand with credibility on your policies, because at the end of the day, rising debt levels are just a result of rising fiscal disequilibriums. So the first thing to attack is your fiscal situation, because from there on you will be able to have the resources to have a better position to refinance or restructure the debt of the different countries that face those burdens. In Argentina, we have tried to regain that credibility and regain market access, always within the framework, the legal framework that is available to us. And as such, we are making big strides in building that credibility, and by our actions in terms of having our fiscal discipline, our monetary discipline, having growth and investment in the country is going to alleviate as well the debt burdens that our country and some other countries face as well.
Ms. Marsha?
Yes, and if I can add a little to that, I think when we talk about reform of the sovereign debt architecture, we're really looking at the type of sovereign debt resolution that we have now, the common framework. The common framework is really at best some kind of restructuring with a little bit of haircut. So what we call for when we talk about a comprehensive sovereign debt restructuring framework is a framework that includes not only bilateral creditors, a few bilateral creditors, but that also includes the private sector. The private sector is currently not included. So if a country has a private sector debt, it's not included as part of the common framework. And that also goes with the debt to international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. So, but when we look at the kind of debt resolution that we had at the turn of the century, the HIPIC, the MDRI, those had, they went much more further than what we currently have. So that's the point we make when we say that we want reform of the sovereign debt architecture. The other issue is also about how does the debt architecture cover countries that are just illiquid, but they're still solvent. They can pay their debt, but at a particular time, maybe there's an exogenous shock, and so they cannot meet their obligations now. So the point is, what kind of facilities can we have that is market-based, that those kind of countries can quickly rely upon? And we've seen example of how those kinds of facility work, even in the past 1 or 2 weeks with Argentina. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Marsha, I promise to come to you, the lady in the beige in the front, and then I see some hands. I'm going to that side of the room later, yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Nume Ekege from This Day newspaper. My question is to the Vice Chair, Mr. Cardoso. How, in these meetings, what are the core messages in terms of how the G-24 is trying to protect the interests of developing countries and emerging economies? Thank you.
Any other question from Mr. Cardoso? Julian? Yep.
Thank you. Julian Piquet, the Africa Report, Jeune Afrique. A follow-up question to that for Governor Cardoso. Was wondering if you could talk a little bit about trade and tariffs, the impact on your countries. One, the impact of the U.S. tariffs, of course, how they're impacting your countries, but also the Chinese now being shut out of the U.S. market and sending a lot of their goods to your countries, particularly Africa. Is that undermining industrialization efforts? Just wondering if you have a common position on what needs to be done on the dual attacks on the trade front. Thank you.
If you'd like to respond to your takeaway.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think it's important to say that the G-24 is a body, as far as I can see, with various countries who have common interests. And to the extent that is the case, they've been relatively successful in having a dialogue. Like, for example, this morning, we had a dialogue with both the managing director of the IMF as well as the representative of the managing director of the World Bank, where there was an exchange of ideas and an exchange of discourse that basically helps for the leadership of the Bretton Woods institutions to better understand directly from the players what the issues are and where the pain points really are. So from that perspective, I think it's really a very effective engagement. And this, as you all know, is something that goes on a regular basis. And of course, the communique that comes out also is very, very, very useful in the sense that it moves from issues of domestic resource mobilization to inflation and all the various commonalities that the G-24 members have. So from that perspective, I think it's been pretty effective, and they learn from us and we also learn from them. And there were certain things that came out today that I found quite useful. They were talking about the fact that growth is behind, but not as behind as would have been expected to be. And also the fact that one of the issues that can help to get many of our countries out of a difficult situation, of course, are macroeconomic policies, and sound macroeconomic policies at that. And the correlation between those who've adopted sound macroeconomic policies and growth and disinflation, and obviously having to stay the course. So those are very, very critical issues that came out. With respect to trade and tariffs, really from Nigeria's perspective, frankly, less of a problem for us. And I think we were very fortunate because a lot of the things that were needed to have been done, we did them much earlier. And as a result of that, we were able to create resilience and buffers against potential shocks. So, and of course, in terms of anchoring expectations, we found that those who followed the Nigerian economy were fairly comfortable. And for us, again, oil is basically the only commodity that was so exposed, and the impact on that was relatively modest. Now we have a more competitive currency, because to the question you asked on China, we have a more competitive currency, with the result that for once we have a situation where we have a positive balance of trade. We have a trade surplus, and we expect it to be 6% to GDP or thereabouts, and remain in that for some time. So basically what is happening is a complete restructuring of the economy, where with a competitive currency, it's encouraging people to go into domestic production and, of course, discouraging imports.
Thank you, Governor. I'm going to move to that side. I think I see the hand from the lady in the black jacket. Yes, please. That's you. The microphone is next to you.
Hello, it is Fern Skovgaard from Invest Gains Capital. We are doing digital bonds, which I would like to bring because we are also working with FT and SG Global. We are sharing our progress of a pilot in South Africa. So I would like to hear your opinion about what you feel about involving private capital, because digital bonds attracts new investor classes.
Maybe this is a good question for Ms. Marsha, or this is not inside of your purview?
It's outside.
Okay, I think you should raise the question in other press conference on digital bonds. Sir, with the pink tie, yeah.
Thanks. Igor Nemushin for the RIA News Agency in DC Bureau. Frankly speaking, question to all the participants. What are your attitudes towards settling bilateral trade to national currencies? What advantages and disadvantages do you see? And what is your country's stance on this issue? Thank you.
What is the issue? Can you repeat your question again? And this is to...
The question about switching to national currencies in bilateral trade. What is your country's attitude towards this issue, and what advantages and disadvantages do you see? Thank you.
That's a very complex question, but we have 5 minutes left. So just want to remind that, every panelist that we have only 5 minutes, so maybe a quick response if you'd like to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, from Pakistan perspective, we've been working quite hard to diversify and settle some trade in local currencies. We've signed a currency swap agreement with People's Republic of China, with Central Bank of China. And one of the objectives is to assist in transition to local currencies. So we are very keen on that, and gradually we are working on that to diversify. Objective is just to diversify, and it's really up to the choice of the traders, importers and exporters, which currencies they want to denominate. But we, as a central bank, want to have provide an enabling environment to the businesses, so that they can make a choice, a commercial choice, if they want to determine or denominate their trade in local currency. So we are supportive in that, and we are working hand in hand with the industry on that. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Cardoso, would you like to respond or?
Well, I thought the question was on settling with digital currency, right? In national currency. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, very good.
Local currency.
Local currency. I'm sorry. Okay, we've had an experiment with that, and to be frank, it didn't work out very well for us. That's not to say that we are not interested in doing this. We are, and we are really at an elementary stage of putting up a framework now that our currency is more competitive to be able to ensure that it's a win-win for everybody.
In terms of local currencies and being used local currencies in trade, Argentina has historically had a very weak currency, and as such, we have been trading in what global currencies are, mostly U.S. dollars, euros, and yen and renminbi as well. So we are in no position to force anyone to accept our local currency yet. It'll come the time.
So we have another online question I received from Abdurrahman Ahmed, Al Arabi TV. This is to Ms. Masha. How could G24 help Syria in building its economy, which is a member of G24?
Yes, thank you for that. Well, the challenges that Syria face are multifaceted, and some of them can be solved by more financing, but a lot has to do with institution building, reconstruction, the devastation of war, and also how the government proceeds in terms of how it's working with its neighbors. Now, based on the last IMF assessment, I think the focus obviously has to be on the macroeconomic stability. I think that's the first port of call. And for a country that the GDP has declined by about 50% over the past 10 years, it's a long way to go. And I am of the view that the international financial institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, are already in the process of putting together some kind of support. The World Bank has support for fragile and post-conflict states. That could be something the Syrians will find attractive, and the IMF also has that. But given where the country is now, a lot of those advances have to be concessional, very, very concessional, because it's just not in a condition where it can really support or be able to service loans that are high cost. So I will say that, yes, from our own perspective, we see the kind of facilities they qualify for, but also the government has to have that comprehensive plan on how it wants to proceed. And as G24, we're always working together with tax authorities in member countries, with the central banks, with the fiscal agents. We're always developing positions that are shared, and also having a lot of seminars where policymakers can really get to do these things better.
Thank you. Any other thoughts from other panelists? We see the clock is ticking down, so I'm going to close the session. We are at time. The G24 communique should have been posted on IMF.org. The transcript of this conference will be made available later. And thank you very much for joining this press conference in this room and also from online. So have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.